I'm not a rocket scientist, not a successful entrepreneur, and I definitely don't have a PhD. I resonate more closely with the audience in the room than my fellow presenters. I was on a crossroad not too long ago. I'm a recent graduate trying to find my place in the world. Upon graduation, I had the same fear as most college students in the room do. How would I fit in the real world? How would I find a job? And most importantly, how would I find a job that would sponsor my visa? Talking about visas, I came to the United States on a student visa, and I need a work visa to continue working here. I even need a visa to travel to Canada. Yes, I'm a proud Indian citizen who loves America's friendly neighbor, Canada. It might be a touchy topic in an election year, but luckily, I'm not running for office anytime soon. I probably won't run for office for another 15 years, but if I do, this is the message I would share on the dais. Don't turn your back on an experience just because it seems irrelevant to your current life goals. To learn why, let's travel back in time 15 years. I'm 8 years old, sitting next to my mother, watching The Christmas Carol. My sister is a member of the cast, and my father, mother, and I have traveled 8 hours on the pothole roads of India to support her. I'm assuming most of you read The Christmas Carol. You know the story of Uncle Scrooge, who was very greedy. He didn't like the Christmas spirit, but as the story progresses, he becomes a better person and doesn't become greedy. That's what I think my parents wanted me to get out of the story. Not to be greedy when I go to the candy store. But instead, the 8-year-old me wanted to go to the same school as my sister so I could be an actor one day. When you think of boarding school, it might think you of an expensive, elitist school in Connecticut or Vermont. Luckily, my boarding school was not as outrageously expensive and offered the same opportunities at a very affordable rate. You can compare it to like a Chicago private school or prep school, except since it was 120 years old, it had a lot of British influence. Just like Harry Potter, we had prefects, inter-house competitions, houses. I was sorted in, or rather placed in, the Vikram house, which was basically like Gryffindor, but all boys. So, I knew I was adamant to go to this school, but I had the same fears as anyone else at my age would do. I knew I would have to make my bed on a daily basis, do my homework, study for tests, and do a lot of other things that my parents would help me with. But I had a fear of fitting in. Boarding schools have a reputation of bullying and hazing, and even though I didn't have to deal with it, I did spend a lot of my time alone. I didn't have a lot of friends because I didn't get along with them. I didn't have any common interests with them. I wasn't athletic. I didn't like playing cricket, which was very important. I didn't like cars. I didn't like Bollywood celebrities. So, spent a lot of my years alone. Imagine yourself in my place. What would you be going through if you're 8 years old, away from your parents? I knew my sister was in town, but it didn't really help much because I could only talk to my parents once a week. We had phone days when our parents could call us, and if they missed, they would have to wait till the next week to talk to us. In 2001, we didn't have cell phones in common use, and they didn't really want a boarding school kid to have a cell phone at the age of 8. So when I did talk to my parents, I would usually be very strong. I would try to pretend that I'm doing well. I would not let them know that I was homesick and lonely, because I knew if I did do that, they would be very upset, and they would want to bring me back home. But sometimes, I would break down myself. I would want to go back home. Towards the end of the first year of school, hundreds of people were killed in a mass riots between Hindus and Muslims in my home state. It all started in my hometown when a train full of Hindu pilgrims was attacked by a mob. 4 coaches were set on fire, and 59 people were killed. This all happened on the morning of my mother's birthday, 10 minutes from home. After the burning came the chaos and the riots. I couldn't get a hold of my parents, and I was scared because I was 9 years old, and I was scared, what if something happened to my family? My parents, especially my dad, grew up 5 minutes from the train station where the burning had happened. When I did get a hold of my parents, my father told me he was happy that I was not at the same place right now. He was happy that I was away from the chaos, the religious tension, and all the destruction. And then he gave me the most important piece of advice. He told me to surround myself with people who were smarter than me. He told me these will be the people who inspire me to become better. And my mother told me to be strong and believe in myself. She told me to think about why I had decided to come to boarding school and continue to look at my passions. And that's what I did. I tried to perform well on my academics and extracurricular activities. I played Earth Person number 4 in a school play based on the movie E.T. That's the alien movie that you guys watched. I joined the Hindi and English speech team and started doing well in inter-house competitions. And I also started volunteering. At the age of 11, I was volunteering at the Missionaries of Charity Orphanage and Old Age Home. Here, I met people who were either homeless or left uncared for by their children. I was usually volunteering with people who were older than me, so they helped me understand the importance of community service. Helping others became a big part of my life and became something that gave me self-confidence. And my inter-house activities were my new lifelines. So I want you to take a moment right now to think about what experiences define you. I want you to think about who are the people, the mentors, the friends, the family members that challenge you to become better. Think about them right now and remember them, because these people are what make you who you are. After this reflection, it was time for me to conquer the uncharted territories. As some of you may know, 27% of the University of Illinois graduates study abroad at some point in their college career. That is, every fourth person in the room will study abroad before they graduate. I studied abroad too. At the age of 13, my freshman year of high school, I was invited to participate in an exchange program in a school in Canada. That's why I cracked a joke about Canada earlier. So while doing my research about the school, I learned that Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, and the second son of Queen Elizabeth had studied abroad at the same school 30 years earlier. So I knew this was an opportunity I didn't want to let go, because I would be in the history books now. I knew it was time for me to take on a new challenge in my life. I knew it was time for me to take my parents' advice and use it to a new challenge. I went to a small boarding school. It was 8,000 miles from home, so I traveled on a plane alone at the age of 13, and in the hope of making new friends and learning something new. The small boarding school helped me meet a lot of people in my classes or in the dining hall. I met people from all around the world representing different ethnic backgrounds and cultural practices. I learned about lots of festivals, lots of cuisines, and fashions. I also learned a lot of other things from these people. The main thing was how to love myself. I went to my first semi-formal. It wasn't a thing in India, so I was excited. I started playing broom ball, watched my first hockey game, went to Tim Hortons because they'll drag me there anyway. And then I also joined the cross-country team. Remember I told you I wasn't athletic? Well, that kind of changed. Academically, I was a nerd. I studied engineering, for God's sake. So I was a nerd. And I was fascinated by the way people taught different concepts in my class. For example, how would you teach a 13-year-old the difference between distance and displacement? In India, they would take the theoretical approach and draw some lines on the board and try and attempt to tell you the difference. But in Canada, I was learning the same concept through an experiment. My physics professor told us that we were going on a field trip, and I was really excited. It was a beautiful fall day in October, and I didn't really want to be in this classroom right now. But by field trip, he meant the nearest staircase at the end of the hall. Anyway, he divided the team in two groups. Team 1 had the fastest runners, and Team 2 got the measuring tapes. He asked one of the Team 1 runners to run up and down the stairs and asked the Team 2 to measure the distance covered by this person. I'm not going to give you a physics lecture right now because I'm assuming you took some physics in high school or college. But this is how he explained me the difference between distance and displacement. So the engineers in the room might be thinking, oh, this seems like a silly exercise, make people run up and down stairs. Well, it might be a little silly, but it helped me understand that there were different ways of doing everything. There were different ways of learning anything you want to learn. The Indian experience, where I learned it theoretically, had helped me make a good foundation. But the practical approach I learned in India was helping me remember these concepts better. I remember them now, 10 years later, and I still remember the story. So I take this to my life. I like to think that people learn from each other's experiences, and different experiences help you grow better and understand things better. So I'm in Canada with people I have no idea who they are. I don't speak their language because I was born and brought up in India. I decided to open up a little bit more. I started expressing myself a little bit more because I felt comfortable. Back in India, my opinions didn't matter a lot because my friends didn't really like me too much. But here, I could be myself and my friends would love me for it. Even though they would challenge me, they still would take my opinions seriously. I remember very, very well that I represented my school at the UN Day celebration. I was representing India, holding the tricolor flag, sorry. It's our Indian flag. I was wearing a kurta pajama that I had borrowed from a friend, and I remember the pajama was a size too big, but that didn't actually stop me from talking about my country. I had some great discussions about our colorful festivals, spicy Indian food, our geopolitics, relationship with Pakistan, and the Hindu-Muslim riots. So remember earlier in the story I told you that my father had asked me to surround myself with smart people? Well, I felt like this exchange experience gave me just that. I was surrounded by people who motivated me to become better. 3 years later, I finished high school and decided to come to the United States for college. I gave up on my dream of becoming an actor and pursued engineering. I was tired of playing a doctor in every play. And I thought engineering might be a better fit for me. You can laugh all you want, it is true. You can go ask my high school teacher who read my graduation tape, and he said, Nishant always found himself being a doctor. Wonderful. Well, I knew that the experiences that I've had over the years from high school, from boarding school, from my exchange program, had helped me for this new challenge. So at college, I jumped into activities right away. I joined a service fraternity that helped me meet new people, develop my leadership skills, and serve the community. I was looking for opportunities that were fueling my newfound passion for traveling and meeting new people. Through my different leadership and community service exercises, I learned that I was really good at helping people and connecting them to opportunities. I realized that I was always looking for a chance to help others, and I loved seeing a smile on another's face. Through a leadership assessment exercise that I did through the Illinois Leadership Center, I learned that I was a connector. My skills and passions about people made me a great connector. For those of you who don't know what a connector is a person who knows a lot of people and knows how to keep in touch with them. But for me, being a connector means helping other people using my network. I'm always looking for opportunities to connect to people so they can do something and make life better. And that's what all TED is about, right? Changing the world. So, looking back, every experience I've had so far, since the 8-year-old who packed a mosquito net because there were so many mosquitoes in my boarding house, every experience I've had since then till where I am today has shaped who I've become. Like, every experience is a big part of me. I'm a fundraising professional now at the university. I raise funds for the College of Engineering. I share stories of our faculty, staff, and alumni in an effort to spread a message that we're one of the best universities in the country. So all that is my story. That's my story. But what does it mean to you? Why do you have to listen to me right now? I want you again to think about all those experiences that have shaped who you are. It is important to know that each experience that you go through will define your future. Your future of conquering the uncharted depends on you and your experiences. And I want to leave you with 3 advices. Love yourself, surround yourself with people who bring out the best in you, and don't say no to an opportunity just because it seems irrelevant, because you never know what will turn out one day. And lastly, make sure you visit Canada. Thank you.